All right. Well, hey, welcome everybody. Thanks for attending. Uh, I'm Mike Fritsch with Prometheus Performance Systems, and I'm going to take you through some keys to effective networking. We call this LinkedIn Secrets 101. This is actually a webinar that we presented to the Austin chapter of the Project Management Institute, and folks found it very, very helpful. So what I'm going to do is walk through some key items, basics within LinkedIn, and what I'll do is pause after each section in case there's questions, and then at the end we could have time to kind of go through some live stuff and answer other specific questions that folks have. So we'll go ahead and just dive right into it. Prior to the webinar, you got the survey that went over, and if you fill that in, then your responses are going to be part of the results that we see. But you know, what's in it for you in this webinar? What are you going to get out of it? So let's take a look at some facts around LinkedIn. So if you're looking for work or new opportunities, you know, the questions in the survey talk about what percentage of recruiters use LinkedIn to find and vet job candidates, and you can see where the results are coming in. How does a LinkedIn profile impact the amount of job opportunities visible to a user? And you can see the responses there. It also, LinkedIn allows you to set job alerts. How much more likely are you to get a job if you set up those alerts? You can see the responses there. And then finally, how much more likely are LinkedIn users to get hired when they're referred by another user? So you can see kind of we've got differing opinions on that. And the answers to the quiz are as follows. So 95% of recruiters use LinkedIn to find and vet job candidates. So if you're out there looking for opportunities, looking for a new job, a recruiter is going to check you out on LinkedIn almost 100% of the time. So having that LinkedIn profile absolutely impacts the number of job opportunities visible to the user. It triples them, right? So having a good profile, you're going to open up your opportunities tremendously. Question 3 was, how much more likely are you to get a job if you set up job alerts on LinkedIn? And again, 3 times as likely. And then how much more likely, and this I think is really, really important, how much more likely are LinkedIn users to get hired when they are referred by another user? So that's 4 times as likely. And so getting into a position where somebody can refer you is really priceless. So as we walk through here, we're going to have 3 main sections on how you can really master LinkedIn basics in order to promote your career or promote your business. And the first thing we're going to talk about is networking. And networking is really essential to career and business success. And so when we talk about networking, you know, what is that? And one of my favorite definitions is from a great book called Power Networking. Donna Fisher and Sandy Vilas are the authors of that. And what they call networking is making links from people we know to people they know in an organized way, and I've highlighted that, for a specific purpose while remaining committed to doing our part, again highlighted, expecting nothing in return. So that's the essence of networking, is really making the right connections. Being organized is very important, and contributing to the effort, doing your part means, you know, kind of good karma. So helping other folks, not just helping yourself, that will make you very, very impactful and effective in networking. I love this quote as well. It's long, so I won't read it, but Robert Mueller was an international civil servant. He was part of the United Nations, Assistant Secretary General for 40 years, and really speaks to networking and making a deliberate intent around networking. For him, he's looking, at changing the world. But I like the beginning there of, deciding to network, use every letter, every conversation, every meeting, to really express your beliefs and dreams and to spread that. So it's kind of the do good aspects of networking, but I think it's really, really true. And so as we think about LinkedIn and think about networking, I've got two things for you. So on the left, there's something that if you're younger in the audience, you may not recognize this. And then on the right is a celebrity. So on the left, we've got a Rolodex, which was, in the manual days, little cards that had people's contact information. And it was often said that the size of somebody's Rolodex really reflected the influence and the connections that they had. And then to the right is Kevin Bacon, the actor. And there was an interesting game that was created called 6 Degrees of Separation. And the game was a couple of college students, and they were like, how quickly can you connect Kevin Bacon to another actor? And so it would be things like, so-and-so starred in this movie, who starred in this movie, and was with Kevin Bacon. But really how this translates is if we think about networking and we think about LinkedIn, LinkedIn really is today's Rolodex. So the size of your legitimate LinkedIn connections really helps you increase your reach from a networking perspective. And then if you think of the game 6 Degrees of Separation, getting to know people through other people, really that's what that picture of Kevin Bacon symbolizes. And so in the chat and in the invitation to the webinar, we had another pop quiz to test some of your trivia around LinkedIn and your LinkedIn knowledge. And so you can see some of the questions here. I'll just let them sit up there for a minute, and these are the responses that we've collected. And so if we look at what the actual answers are, they're fairly revealing. So LinkedIn was officially launched in 2003. The founder was Reid Hoffman. I actually joined LinkedIn in 2004. At the end of its first year, at the end of 2003, there were about 81,000 users on LinkedIn. At the end of 2023, 20 years later, there were over 800 million. And so you can see that as an entree into getting to know other people and to do business networking, that LinkedIn as a source just opens up so many doors. And so making sure that you are leveraging it for your career and for your business really is essential. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So if you want a shortcut to doing good networking, then here are the things. I'm going to talk about the 7 deadly sins of LinkedIn and the 7 cardinal virtues. So don't do these following things on LinkedIn. So kind of the don'ts are, if you don't have a profile, if you have a bad profile or an old profile. So make sure you've got a profile. Correlating to that is no picture, a bad picture, or an old picture. And for each of these, we'll go into a little bit more detail, and then I'll pause for questions. If you're on LinkedIn and you have no interaction, or you're neglecting your network, so you put up your LinkedIn profile page and then it just sits there and you never look at it, you never do anything. Number 4 is inviting someone to connect, but not sending it with a note. Number 5, asking for help or selling something as soon as someone connects. And then you don't want to become a spammer on LinkedIn, either accidentally or on purpose. And as you're making content, you don't want unprofessional content being put out there by yourself or inauthentic content. You want to really reflect who you are and reflect the professional who you are. So those are the 7 things to avoid. The 7 things that you should do are these. Make sure you have a current, relevant profile and picture. Leverage all of the profile features, which we'll go into. Reach out with a personal touch. Build relationships with your new contacts. So just connecting and then leaving it fallow doesn't do you any good. Interact with your network daily. So get on LinkedIn daily, even if it's only briefly, and I'll tell you later on how to manage your time in order to do that. Proactively help your network. So if you find a way that you can help somebody make a connection, then do that. And then be yourself. And you want to embrace what's called KLT, which stands for know, like, and trust. And so part of what you do on LinkedIn is folks will get to know you. Hopefully they'll get to like you, and eventually they'll get to trust you. And of course, that's reinforced with your interactions that take place in the real world off of the platform as well. But think of that as you're presenting your true self and your best foot forward. Really, you want folks to say, oh, I know that person, have a positive feeling, and have some trust associated. And so I'm gonna pause there. The next thing that we're gonna jump into is how you should optimize your LinkedIn profile. Before I do that, are there any questions? So I'll just pause for a second here. I'm not looking at the chat box, so if you have a question, unmute and just shout out. Okay, great. Well, let's talk about your LinkedIn profile. So how do you put your best professional face forward? So here's a checklist, and at the end of the webinar, I'll have a way where you can request the checklist themselves and use them after the webinar. But first section that you want to think about is looking at your header and your experience section. So first, look at your profile photo. Should be professional and current. Make sure you have a friendly and approachable expression. I tell this story of somebody that I've worked with, and when I looked at their LinkedIn profile as I was reaching out, they looked like the most unfriendly, mean person I'd ever seen in my life. I was like, oh gosh, I think it's going to be a chore trying to talk to this person. But their photo did not reflect their personality at all. When I connected up with him and talked with him, he was like the most friendliest, helpful person you can imagine. Make sure you have a high resolution image, so you don't want that picture to be fuzzy. And then once you've got your own picture in place, then you want to do your background photo, which is that area that is behind the photo itself. You want that to be relevant to your professional life. It should be high quality, properly sized, so it doesn't get cut off. And you want it to enhance your profile's visual appeal. So it shouldn't be distracting, and it ought to reinforce something that is relevant to you. The next section down is the headline. So clearly state your current position or your value proposition. So it kind of depends on what you're doing. You can say, hey, I'm the vice president of operations, I'm a trade manager, or you might have something that says, I help people make the most of their websites or things like that. So something that as folks are looking at it, it gives them an idea of what you do or what value you provide. Think about including keywords that are relevant to your industry for search engine optimization. Uh, when folks search, LinkedIn is one of the searches that comes up when it's associated with you. So if you have a particular niche, a particular industry, or a particular passion, having it in the headline so that it can be identified can be helpful. You want to make it engaging and concise, and you've got to keep it under 120 characters. And I'll speak to that in a little more detail. Get a custom URL. So a custom URL personalizes your LinkedIn URL to include your name or a professional alias. And so rather than have a long series of characters, you want to have your name spelled out. That may be harder to do now that there are 800 million users on LinkedIn. But you can look and see, you can, do your name plus your location, your name plus your profession. And then some people don't even worry about putting their name into that custom URL. What they do is do something like the PMO guy or finance guru or something like that. So it can be a professional alias that is a shortcut speaking to kind of the value that you add. Next is the summary section. That's the about. You want that to be detailed and well structured. You want to highlight your professional background, your skills and achievements. Include some keywords in there for SEO, and include a call to action. So it might be your contact info, it might be links to work or your portfolio, but things that somebody might go, oh, let me do a little bit more and check this person out. And then in the experience section, list all your relevant past and current employment, include detailed descriptions, quantifiable achievements, and then each position has a clear start and end date. So as we look at that, let me take you through some examples. So the basics, do this in order. So get the basics done first. Make a complete profile. So on the left, you can see a profile that's incomplete. So no picture, no background, no recent posts, no activity, and just if you looked at this, you wouldn't be sure if that was a real profile or not, right? On the right, I made a little joke here. So I took my profile and illustrated not keeping your photo updated. So I inserted a picture of me as a Boy Scout, like at age 12. And you can see that's kind of belaboring the point of keep it current. But if you, what you don't want to do is have a photo that is so old that if you meet somebody in real life, they're going like, who is this person? I didn't recognize them at all. So it's not as if your photo has to be, updated in the last 6 months, but make sure that it does resemble you. And so even if it's fairly recent, but if you've made a major, change to your look, I'd recommend updating that photo in order to have it reflect what you really look like. Because what'll happen too at a lot of networking events, folks may be like, oh, I know Mike's going to be at this networking event. I think I'd like to connect up with him. They'll pull up the LinkedIn profile, and then as they're at the event, they'll be looking around for it, right? Or you might talk to somebody, they're going to grab that profile and think, oh, is this the right Mike Fritsch or the right John Smith? And if the picture does not look like you, then that'll leave some questions in their mind. On this example, you can see that in the background, I've got kind of a connecting pattern. One of my taglines is, I'm a networker and consultant. So if I can't help you, I can find somebody who does. That's the relevance of this network. And then for me, as a business owner and a consultant, I highlight my educational background and professional qualifications and my membership in the Forbes Business Development Council. And then for the industries I'm in, some of the places I've been published. So for me, that's just as a consultant, kind of giving a credibility message, if you will. For you, if you're working in IT, it may be an IT related image. If you're working in project management, it could be a project management related image, but just something. And also it could be, doing something that shows where you live. So, I've seen folks that have the 360, the Pennypacker Bridge, if they're in Austin, or the background mountains if they're in Colorado, that sort of thing. And so something that enhances kind of your message, it's all fine. As we go in, after the basics, then you've got the other sections in your profile, and I call these the credibility boosters. So you've got the skills section. This lists the key skills relevant to your industry. It's prioritized by importance and relevance, so you can move those around. If you've gotten endorsements, it includes endorsements. And so you want to take a look at that. If there are skills that you are developing, or skills that are important to a particular job opportunity that is, that you're wanting to pivot to, then you want to kind of promote those skills in your profile and do things to build. The next section down gives the recommendations, and that's recommendations from colleagues, clients, or employers. And you can request a recommendation. It's a two-way street. So do recommendations for others to encourage reciprocation, right? So you may want to do a recommendation for a colleague that worked on a project with you, or if somebody recommends you and writes something up, then you should return the favor and do a recommendation for them. When someone writes a recommendation for you, it's going to appear appear in your inbox, if you will, and you have the choice to accept it and post it on your profile or not, right? And if you're asking for recommendations, what I always do is, ask somebody, hey, would you be willing to do a recommendation for me? And I'll write up a draft for you to make it easier. And then, you can mark it up and submit the recommendation. And so that makes it easier for somebody to go ahead and help you out that way. In education, you want to include all the relevant educational qualifications, add your certifications, online courses, or workshops. There's a section similar that has licenses and certifications. So any of your professional certs, keep that up to date, shows the issuing authority. And then you've got a section in here called volunteer experience. And for example, I do volunteer work with the PMI chapter in Austin. So you can keep that separate and say, hey, what have you done as in volunteer work? What are your roles and responsibilities? Highlight your leadership and your community involvement. I've highlighted this for a couple of reasons. One is, let's say you're trying to break into kind of a new field. One of the good ways to highlight your skill sets or to have a talking point with recruiters or employers is if you do volunteer work in that field. And so, for example, and I'll use the PMI chapter in Austin as an example. Let's say that you're working in operations, but you really want to start getting into marketing. Volunteering into the marketing organization of PMI or another nonprofit, another volunteer area, would allow you to speak to having those skill sets, even if they're not in your paid position. So that's something that beyond, helping out the community, that grabbing particular volunteer opportunities that can promote where you want to go career-wise can be very, very valuable. And when you do that, you should certainly highlight those on your LinkedIn profile. The last credibility builder area is accomplishments. And this shows, lists of publications, languages, projects, other professional achievements. And, you want to clearly detail contributions and the impact. So I'm going to pause there, and then I'm going to pull up my own profile. So I'm going to stop sharing. And I saw something in the chat. How do I locate serious person to connect with on LinkedIn? That's great, Evelyn. And I'm going to talk about that in the next section of expanding your network. Let me share LinkedIn for just a second to kind of illustrate some of the things that I've spoken about. So let me come in here and make sure I grab the right field. All right, so if we come in here, again, I'll use my own profile kind of as an example. But again, current picture. So if you look at me on camera, you can see that the picture looks very similar. Again, I spoke about kind of the networking. And for me as a consultant, the credibility builders, my headline is more around where I consult and how I help. So it's, basically kind of a series of keywords. Telling a short story or what you're passionate about is also very effective. As we come down, there is, location, contact info. And then on the open to, you can have things like, open to employment that can be, only recruiters can see, etc. If you are going to enhance your profile, you would do that with your add profile section. And then this button here gives you a couple of call to actions. We talked about call to actions. So that could be things like, make an appointment. For me, it's a view my portfolio and comes into the Forbes Business Development Council. But a lot of folks have book an appointment with me. It can be work examples, that sort of thing. As we get in here to the more button, there's some things you can do with your own profile or others. You can share a profile with somebody else. So for example, let's say you are, looking for a job in a particular company. You could send this profile in a message to someone who's a mutual contact. And you could say something like, hey, John, I'm trying to reach out to Susan. I see that you're connected. And then, since you've set the profile, it'll be, crystal clear to that person who Susan is. But the thing that I want to show you that's important, and to answer your question when we go into the next section, is if you go here, you'll have this about the profile. And this is part of where you can make sure that you've got a legitimate person or a serious person, because you can see how they've been verified. Whether they've had a workplace email or clear government ID, something that just helps improve the legitimacy of that profile. As we come down, then we can see the about section, and make it easy to read. Top skills. This comes from your skills section. And you can do some work around how you move them back up and forth. And so you can actually take skills and you can collapse them or expand them, but you have the ability to move them up and around in your thing. If you can feature posts, and so if you have certain things that you're proud of, you can go ahead and put them in the featured section. It's easy to add them here. And then activity is where we'll talk about giving content, come into your experience and go through. We recommend that you have a short description of what that role is, and then add things like accomplishments. And then you come down, we've got the education, licenses and certifications. You have the ability to add projects. So if you want to highlight some of the work that you did, you can use the project section, and you can include other contributors. And then again, we talked about volunteer roles, and you can see those there. And then as we come down to the skills, this is where you can, edit your skills and look at where you've assigned them versus other roles, that sort of thing. So a quick highlight on, kind of working with your profile. And the thing to do is do what you can. And it literally is start from the top and work your way down. So the most important thing is, get this right first, and then you can work on the other things. So with that, let me move on and share back to the presentation. And let's see if we can, PowerPoint slideshow, okay. All right, so expanding your network, this is connection best practices. You want to proactively expand your network. So, I've got kind of what's the minimal effort to do that and a medium level of effort to do that. On the minimal effort, check your LinkedIn at least once a week. So just take a look at it, see if there's any notifications, if there's been any messages, profile views, searches, that sort of thing. And, even if it's just 15 minutes, glance at it. I would recommend that you reach out to connect with one past colleague per week. If you're brand new to the workforce, then maybe reach out and connect with one alumni per week. Comment on at least one of your connections posts. So look at that feed and say something like interesting, or the deeper comment that you can make, the more interaction that is. But as a minimum, if you just do a like, do an insightful, or even use the AI suggested comment, that is something that you ought to do. Interact with at least one of your groups or join one relevant group each week. There are various professional groups on LinkedIn. Those things are often very good ways to expand your network and make connections. If you can afford the time to go beyond just once a week, then move on into the medium effort. So do everything on the left and then add these. Congratulations on work anniversaries. You'll see those in your LinkedIn feed. Just say congrats on new positions, happy birthdays. Do thanks for endorsing. If anybody endorses you, then, say thank you, endorse them back. And then if somebody has viewed your profile, now you've got to have a premium subscription to see that. But if you've got that, consider connecting with anyone who viewed your profile. So doing these things probably, may boost you up to 30 minutes a week, from 10 to 15, depending on how many connections you have. But it can be very, very valuable. So this gives you kind of a general approach of, gosh, how do I expand my network? But where you're going to get the best results, or where you can target things that will help you achieve your career goals or your business goals, that's where we move into targeted networking. And of course, on the right, we've got a movie poster from Liam Neeson's Taken, and the famous line that he says that I will find you and I will kill you. From a LinkedIn with targeted networking, if you are on LinkedIn, then I can find you. So while you're doing that, how do you actually find folks on LinkedIn? You know, obviously you can search, but as you do reach out, there are some specific things that you can take advantage of. So the first one, and I'm highlighting this for folks that may not have as large a network as others. Maybe you're, you know, a recent graduate. Maybe you haven't done a lot of networking on LinkedIn in the past. One great source of connecting with people is reaching out to alumni. Um, Fellow alumni of schools, whether it's your undergrad or your grad school, are often very, very receptive. And so how you will do that is you go to your school's page, choose the alumni button, and then you can use filters to find them, right? So you can filter things like the year that they graduated, you can filter by location, you can filter by where they work, and then once you do that and you find somebody that you want to connect with, then send a personal note, right? You got to add a note to your invitation, make it personalized. You know, are there any commonalities that you have with the person that you're going to connect with? It could be something professional, you know, mention your school, obviously, and then mention something else. And it could be you're in the same town. It could be you have a similar hobby. It could be that you are working in a similar field. But, you know, that helps give a hook to your invitation. And it also shows that you're, you know, putting some thought and effort into the outreach to someone else so that it's not just a, you know, kind of a lazy spam. So reaching out to alumni can be a very, very excellent way of making connections. And the way you might work this too is, let's say you're looking for a position at Dell. You know, as you're trying to find out who the hiring manager is, maybe you find somebody at Dell that could be the hiring manager, and you don't know how to get to them. If they happen to be an alumni or they know an alumni, that is a way you can connect and then, you know, have a conversation and ask for an introduction, right? The other thing that you can do is reach out to colleagues. So, you know, folks that have worked at a same company as you or similar companies going to be less effective. But what you'll do is go to the company's page, choose people, again, use the filters, find the connection, and then again, send a personalized invitation, right? And again, any commonalities are going to make that more successful for you when you do it. So that's reaching out to invite folks to connect. How do you make decisions on whether you should connect with somebody who is inviting you? And so here are the rules or the guidelines that I use for accepting invitations. So, you know, the question is, should you accept that invite? So what I do is, one, I look at profile completeness. You know, things like a picture, and a picture is essential to me. Activity, have they posted? Two, are there any mutual connections? So is this somebody that's completely out of the blue, or do they actually have folks that you know have those mutual connections? And of course, mutual connections can vary from just LinkedIn connections to deep connections. So you make a judgment on that. Number three is kind of profile authenticity. And remember that I showed you how to go in and check the more to see if that profile is legitimate, whether they're, you know, they have a work related email, if they've got some government ID that they submitted, so that you know that it's not a, you know, a fake profile or a, you know, a bot of some sort. Number four would be thinking about relevance to your industry. So if, you know, if you're working in manufacturing and you get a invitation from somebody who's a fashion model or, you know, a jewelry designer, that connection is not really relevant to you. If there's not any other commonality, then you might choose not to accept that invitation. Um, 5, and that goes hand in hand with number 5, professional benefits. Is there going to be any benefit to them or benefit to you from a professional perspective if you all can connect, right? If somebody's interacted with your content, then they put some effort in. And for me, if they've made a comment on one of my posts, I'm more likely to connect with them because they've put in that effort. And if it's been a very cogent or relevant comment, then I almost always accept their invitation. You want to look at the quality of the introduction message. I hate it when it just comes without any message or if it's generic. And then look at their recent activity. If they aren't very active on LinkedIn or if they've had no posts, then I'm very suspicious of whether they're a legitimate user. And even if they are a legitimate user, there may be, if they're not active, there's less value in them as a connection on LinkedIn because they're not very involved. Again, that company and role verification, you want to take a look and see if it looks legitimate. And then finally, reciprocal value. So again, you want to do the golden rule of networking of, seeing what value you can give to the other person. Making connections where you can help that person or help other people in your network by having that connection. So let me pause there. Eveline, does that help with kind of answer that question?
Yes, please. It does. Thank
Okay.
you.
And let's see, what's I going to show? Yeah, let me go. Let's see, we're okay on time. Let me show you. I'll show you some examples. Actually, let me do the next section, and then I'll go back and just go through a quick searching for colleagues and searching for alumni, so you can see how to do that. With a live demo. So next, let's talk about the third element of LinkedIn, and that is, kind of content sharing. So being active on the platform. And these are some basic steps to get noticed. And again, in order, I presented these in order of profile optimization, expanding your network, and now content strategy. So as you go, take care of number 1 first, then worry about number 2, then worry about number 3, right? So these are in order for a purpose. And there's kind of a continuum of content sharing. The big thing is consistency is key, right? So what I don't want you to do is jump on LinkedIn and all of a sudden make a bunch of posts and go crazy for 2 weeks and then go silent for 6 months. So what you want to do is figure out what you can do that is consistent. So the continuum from a low effort to a high effort. On the low effort side of things, you can share industry news. So you see something relevant to a company or the field that you work in, from a trusted source. So you're not, putting, garbage out there, but, just post that article and then make a little comment, like it might be, oh, this company just announced layoffs, or this company just acquired another company, or, some industry trends, around whatever industry you're working in, right? You can curate, so do that, curate content, which means, sharing posts, articles or videos that are trending in your network or industry. So somebody makes, one of your connections makes a post. This is a great twofer. They're going to appreciate it, but you can repost that with a comment and share it. React and comment. Again, regularly react to, comment on posts from your network to maintain visibility. And if you are a job hunter and you've identified some folks in your target company, it can be helpful to make comments on posts that, follow that company and then make comments on posts that company puts out on LinkedIn. It just, increases your visibility in general, but increases your visibility relevant to that particular company. So that's kind of the low effort. That doesn't take a lot of time. Medium effort would be to write short posts, share insights, quick tips, professional updates, brief and informative, participate in discussions. So there's, group discussions or comment threads, share experiences, post about recent work experience, a conference you went to, or lessons learned in your role. This is really around creating kind of a little bit of original content, original thinking, more than just the low effort content, sure. And then if you are really ambitious and if you have the time and if you enjoy it, then you can do some high effort content sharing. Create original articles, write and publish articles on LinkedIn, provide value, showcase your expertise. Maybe you're a quality engineer. You could write something about quality best practices or a particular, Six Sigma, best practice, things like that. You can produce video content, record and share videos that offer professional insights or tutorials or company updates. I'm gonna share this webinar on my YouTube channel, and I'll make a LinkedIn post that links to it, for example. You can host live sessions like this one, which I'm using Zoom, but you can use LinkedIn Live. So you can host something where you're going to have a discussion or more of a webinar where you're teaching like this one. But the important thing, again, is that consistency. Being consistent is going to be what's most valuable to you. And, that golden rule there is do what you can commit to, be consistent, be authentic, and have fun. So all of this, don't make it into drudgery, or you're not going to do it. So do what you can, do what you enjoy, and then don't worry about it, right? So with that, how can I help you? If you'd like to connect with me on LinkedIn, you can scan that, and my profile will come up. You can, although you probably already have it because it was on my profile to join this webinar. If you'd like the checklist and a copy of the presentation, then take a scan of this QR code, or you just send me an email after the fact is okay. So I'm more than happy to kind of help you by giving you the checklist that I've talked about and being a connection on LinkedIn. And then with that, before I jump into doing some live demos, I just want to promote my consulting business, PPS Consulting, Prometheus Professional Performance Systems. We solve business problems, fractional COO and PMO services for SMBs and startups. And so if you need or know somebody who needs help with sales operations and project management, we'd love to get connected with them or try to help out. So with that, I'm going to stop the presentation, and I'm just going to show you a couple things from the LinkedIn perspective of doing the search to find colleagues or alumni. So let me use my own example for alumni. So go to your university page, open that up, and you can come in here and look at people, And actually, that is not what I'm, hold on here. Let me do, there we go. Hold on. So you got to make sure you find the school page as opposed to the company page, and you'll know you're there because you'll have higher education and you'll have alumni. So get to that page, click on alumni, and then you can see the various ways to search.
Oh. Mike, are you sharing anything?
Oh,
We can see your demo.
we can't see it. Let me share again. Apologies.
It's okay.
All right, is it coming up now?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So what I did was, let me show it to you again. Searched on West Point, United States Military Academy, and you might have the business arm of a school versus the higher education. So you want to make sure you're in the higher education part of it. And you'll know that by seeing the alumni tab. So go to the school, hit alumni, and then you'll have the ability to do some filters. So you can go by, where people, you can look at some keywords here. When they graduated, you can go through where they work, where they live, what they do, what they're skilled at, what they studied, how you're connected. But for example, let's just say I'll use Dell as an example. So I could come in here, and if I search Dell, then I can see that there's, there's 49 alumni who have Dell listed as work. And so I can come in here and see if I know any of them, scroll down, and if I already know them, then I've already connected with them, but maybe I want to find somebody that I don't know. I would click on that second degree connection, and then I can come in here and I can find some folks that I'm not connected to directly, but I'm connected to someone who's connected to it, right? And that's an effective way of kind of reaching out to alumni. If you want to find colleagues, then you can go to a company that you worked with. In my case, Applied Materials. If I click on that, then some of the same things, I can find people. And if I'm looking for a specific person, I could type in their name. But if I don't know exactly who I want to go to, then I could zero in based on location, and come in and maybe say, oh, I need somebody who's in IT, right? So I'm going Austin folks at Applied Materials who are in IT. And again, what I might want to do is let me grab second degree connections, and then I can kind of scroll through and see if there's somebody here in IT that I want to reach out with. So that's a really effective way of finding folks at a particular company and then making some connections there. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing. Any last questions? And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording now.